Fox after 9. It is Friday, and this episode is going to be a listener DMs episode. We'll bring in the great Anna Almeida. How you doing, Anna?
I love this great Anna Almeida business. I need a t-shirt made.
Everybody needs a nickname.
I like it. That's the best one I've heard in a long time.
You've got a lot of listener DMs in front of you. We're going to get to those in just a sec. First off, a quick what you need to know. Canada Post did not go on strike at midnight. It looks like the union has blinked first. They're just going to refuse overtime in the short term, and they may still walk, but as of right now, they're not on strike.
Thank goodness for that. I mean, still in deliberation. We actually have a DM about something in regards to that, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But what else is making news today?
The road closures. For everyone outside of Ontario, I know I got to explain stuff to you from time to time about the chaos that is Southern Ontario. There's a lot of people in a relatively small area.
Yeah.
And if you happen to be in Toronto, for example, and you want to go to the Niagara region, you got to go around Lake Ontario and over a bridge called the Burlington Skyway. And that's a bridge over the Burlington-Hamilton Harbor. Mm-hmm. Now, they're doing construction on that this weekend, or they were supposed to be doing construction on it. Last time they did this construction, it was an hour and a half backup to get across the bridge. Now, there is another way. You could go further into Hamilton and go across the Lincoln-Alexander Parkway to get to the QEW Niagara bound. However, the city of Hamilton was scheduled to shut that down this weekend because they had construction to do on the link. Well, cooler heads have prevailed. I maintain that there's no way they scheduled that and talked to each other. Because if they had talked to each other, there's no way both of those things would have happened at the same time.
They wouldn't have thought it was a good idea.
Right. So the city of Hamilton said, okay, you know what? It's going to rain anyway. We're going to cancel our construction this weekend and move it to next weekend. So that's good news.
Awesome.
No construction this weekend on the link. But then the folks over at the Ministry of Transportation also moved their construction to next week. So instead of one delay this weekend and another delay next weekend, they're both happening on the same weekend again because they don't talk to each other.
And it's clear they don't talk. They can't say, oh, well, this. No. If you knew, you wouldn't do it. It's just a pure frustration, and nobody needs to be, feeling that kind of intensity,
Exactly.
Trying to do what they need to do on a regular weekend.
Gas prices went down a cent at midnight, $1.37.9 today. The Canadian dollar continues to climb compared to the U.S. dollar, 72.36 cents U.S. There's a number of things to celebrate this weekend, so let's get these out there. Today is National Road Trip Day because it's the beginning of the Memorial Day holiday in America. What's up, America? We got a lot of downloads out of the States, Anna.
Oh, amazing.
I love that. Hey, not all Canadians are angry at you. I'm pretty good with the American people, so I hope you guys have a great long weekend.
Yeah, I love New York City, so plan to visit there soon.
It's also National Cooler Day and National Taffy Day. Saturday, National Brothers Day, National Scavenger Hunt Day, and National Escargot Day.
Ooh, fancy escargot.
Sunday is Greek Pride Day. Sunday is also National Towel Day, National Missing Children's Day, National Family Fun Day, National Tap Dance Day, and Sunday is National Wine Day.
Oh, my favorite.
Oh, give me a good. What red are you drinking right now?
You know
what varietal?
I'm open for suggestions. I feel like I need something new. So you are the connoisseur when it comes to good wine. So you need to let me know.
It's Pinot Noir season, Anna.
Okay.
Get some in ya.
Do you have a certain country though?
For a Pinot?
Yeah.
I like French Pinot Noir.
Okay, good to know.
There you go. There's also some decent Canadian Pinots that you could try, but you really can't go wrong with Italian wine anytime. That is what my buddy is bringing to the cottage this weekend.
For the road trip that he's making, first of all, alone, till he gets there. We'll get to that, right?
Yeah, there's DMs about that.
So many, because they're as invested as I am.
We talked about this yesterday at great length. We also talked about it earlier in the week. We'll get you caught up in this episode. It is a listener DM episode, and I think that that's probably all we're going to have time to do in this one because there's a lot to cover. So, Anna, why don't we jump into it now?
Okay, so first up, we have Terry. Terry writes, Scott just got caught up on Friday's podcast today, so from last week, while I ran some errands. I can say it's okay to swear the amount of times you were about to drop "it's shit" in this episode and then pulled back or corrected yourself was definitely more than once. But can I ask why you're allowed to swear in podcasts? Your podcasts have a lot worse mature content in them than sometimes you saying shit. And I get people have kids. I have a 3-year-old, but I also know I can't shield him forever, nor should I listen to your podcast sometimes, nor should I listen to your podcast sometimes with him in the room. So but when you allow it to roll off the way that you do, it seems natural. It's not like you're degrading or cussing for the sake of cussing. It brings a natural, personable vibe to the pod. Just my thoughts for that, if it matters. Keep up the great work. Love the pod. So
thanks, Terry.
He's okay with it.
Hey, I don't know if I've ever had a request for more swearing. However, there was a time when I did have some pretty colorful language in the podcast.
Okay.
Last week, I was hot about a couple of different things, and I did almost drop some profanity. And I decided not to do that. I did pull it back at the last minute because, well, a number of reasons. Number one, like you said, Terry, sometimes there's younger ears in the car. And while you may shield your kid from it, or you may not, you may want them exposed, you may not, that's not my decision to make for your kid. And I can't control that. So I think if I just do a podcast where I tell you what's on my mind and Anna tells you what's on hers, we don't need to swear to make our point. You might hear a word slip out here and there. But by and large, I don't think we need to do that. And I think it makes it a little more listenable without the profanity. You probably hear a lot of cussing throughout a day. I don't think we need to add to it in podcast form. Now, the other question was, why can you do it in a podcast? I mean, on the radio, those are public airwaves. Can't do it on the radio. We have some basic broadcast standards in this country, and one of them includes no profanity. And I think that's good. Radio is supposed to be accessible to everybody. Podcast is a little different and not really regulated yet. So I do have the freedom to do it. I just choose not to. No,
it's good. And I appreciate that. And I do agree with Terry. Sometimes if it just rolls off the tongue, it rolls off and it's natural, adds to the conversation, but you're not purposely trying to infuse a conversation with cuss words for the sake of it.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do that. And I'm good with keeping it above board and kind of highbrow. And I think that that's fine.
That's good. All
Thanks.
right. Okay.
Good question to start off.
All right. Well, next up, this is a little bit more serious. Okay, it's from Amanda, and it's regarding the World Junior Hockey players.
Okay.
So just a little trigger.
I am really invested in this case.
You and me both. This is definitely one that every day there seems to be a little bit something else that comes out and plays with what your decision will be. And that brings Amanda's question. She writes, I will add that after hearing your episode today and the text messages, I have to say it doesn't look good for her. I know more will come out.
By her, you mean EM?
EM, yes.
Doesn't look good for EM.
Yeah, that's who Amanda's referencing in this text, in this DM. She says, I know more will come out each day, but I also like, why did the jury get dismissed before they read those text messages? I'm also like, he knew enough to get consent, the first one where they had sex alone in the room, on video. So I'm not understanding why this is being questioned. It's sad. It's a sad world that men or boys now have to get consent on video. Boggles my mind. I'm also like, she determined with the police that she wasn't going to press charges, and the text messages later saying she made a mistake and didn't want to charge anyone. Then you took a payout because your dad called Hockey Canada, and your friend convinced you later to reopen this ? So many red flags here for me, unfortunately. I don't want to take away from her, which is EM, but I'm having a really hard time believing it's what she's saying it is.
I'm not going to question the victim here because I wasn't there and I don't know what happened. But one thing I would say is I think these text messages and these DMs are essential to this case because they were in the moment. It was within days of the actual incident and everything was fresh in everybody's mind. And I think when you go through the text messages that have been read in court, it tells a pretty compelling story that the guys went, they were going to eat or something like that. The novelty of a naked girl there, apparently, allegedly asking all of them to have sex with her. Apparently, they left when things went sideways or when it started to get really weird.
Some of them, yeah.
Some of them did. And I think that those text messages tell us a lot. I don't know where it's going to go, obviously.
And why the jurors left. That was one of the things that people kept wondering about.
Well,
like Amanda as well.
The jurors made an accusation that one of the defense lawyers was making fun of them or belittling them, what they were wearing, for example. And I can't imagine any defense lawyer intentionally mocking a juror because you want those jurors to agree with you.
On your side, of course.
So I can't imagine that happened. I don't know the whole story But I'm going to suggest that maybe those jurors just didn't want to make this decision. And if they didn't, I don't blame them.
I don't blame them either.
Imagine you're the one who votes to let these guys go. Oof. And then you find out down the line, oh, they probably were guilty. Or you decide to convict them. And then find out, oh, wow, that was bad. Not to mention, you won't be very popular because the country seems like split evenly on whether or not these guys actually did anything criminal. I think that the text messages are very relevant. The fact that the jury didn't get to hear them doesn't really matter at this point because the jury is unseated. This is now a judge-only trial. That judge has got a tough decision to make, and you have to figure out who's telling the truth. So far, I can find a lot of parallels between the story the guys are telling and the story that EM is telling because she isn't directly contradicting a lot of what they're saying. You get a lot of, I don't recall, that doesn't sound like something I would say, that doesn't sound like something I would do. I was having an out-of-body experience. I'm not going to make a prediction, but I think that these guys having those text messages entered as evidence, that's essential for them. And I think if they get... what is the word for it? If they get acquitted, acquitted,
yes.
Then that'll be probably the reason why. It's because of those text messages.
And then I do think, too, if they are acquitted, will that cloud follow them everywhere? Do you know what I mean?
I still think they're done with hockey. Okay. I don't think they're going to go back to their NHL teams. Carter Hart had a great career going with the Philadelphia Flyers. He was their franchise goalie, or going to be, and now that's done. So the Flyers lost out, the Philadelphia fans lost out, Carter lost out, and it was all because of one bad decision or questionable decision 7 years ago. I also just want to correct one more thing on that. I don't know that EM necessarily requested that this investigation be reopened.
Yeah.
Initially, the police declined to lay charges, and it was just a settlement with Hockey Canada. EM did get a payout. Mm-hmm. The only reason we know about that is because there was a big investigation into Hockey Canada.
For covering things up.
So I don't know what happened or what changed that London police decided to lay charges all these years later, but I still think the biggest amount of pressure is on them. How did they get it wrong the first time, or how did they get it wrong the second time? Because one of those decisions was wrong. To not lay charges initially or to lay charges eventually.
Yeah. And it's just trauma all the way around for everyone having to revisit something like this. Anyways, it's terrible.
If EM did not cooperate in this investigation, which she has a right to not do, then there wouldn't really be a case. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. At this point, I think that those text messages are going to be what ultimately gets these guys off the charge.
Oh, man.
Eventually.
And it's a wait and see kind of time right now for that. Okay, so moving on, we have another DM, and this one is from Jennifer regarding the pod on drunk driving. Throw the book at every drunk driver. You kill one person, and it's a life. You kill 3 or 4, never see the light of day. There is so much education on this subject, and there is zero excuse.
I mean, she's not wrong. Mm-hmm. There is no excuse, and there is certainly a lot of education. I don't think there's anybody out there who thinks it's okay to drive impaired.
We know that from a young age.
And by the way, when I say drunk driving, that's just the generic term that I grew up with. It's impaired driving, and impaired could be anything from alcohol to drugs to tired.
Anything. If you're tired, you should not be getting behind the wheel either. You're incapable of driving.
I think that our impaired driving laws are, for the most part, good. I think that they are, for the most part, a deterrent. When people make a decision to take an Uber or take a cab, I think some of that is because they know it's bad to drive drunk and they know what the consequences will be if they get caught. Mm-hmm. It's the people who think they're not going to get caught. Yeah. Those are the people that are the biggest problem. And I'll admit it, I've done it. I've drove after I shouldn't have been driving. I probably had too many, and I made a bad decision in that moment, and thank God nobody got hurt. But I also think most people can acknowledge they've probably driven when they shouldn't have. Yeah. And the reason we all did that is because we didn't think we would get caught. It's amazing how many people or stories I hear about people that have been pulled over for impaired driving. And even though there's a cop standing in front of them, they still don't believe that they are going to get arrested for drunk driving. It's not until the cuffs go on them and they get put in the back of the car, just like they would if a murder suspect, that it really sets in that, okay, this is serious. I hope nobody ever ends up in that situation. And there's one way to make sure you don't. Don't drink and drive. I don't agree with all of our drunk driving laws, though. I don't think the same law that says you can't drive impaired should be applied necessarily to things like bikes. Horses. People who have been arrested for a DUI on a horse. People have been arrested for a DUI riding a bike. I really think it should apply to motorized vehicles only. And I think that we could probably refine the drunk boating laws as well. If you drive a boat impaired and the police happen to catch you, they pull your car driver's license for that. I don't know that that's necessarily fair either. However, again, all of this is avoidable.
Yeah.
If you just don't drive or get behind the wheel impaired.
I got to be honest with you, I didn't know about the bike situation.
It's crazy.
Because I've gone down to wine country and rented bikes and went to the different wineries.
People do it all the time.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of people are shocked, right?
I'm stunned right now. I feel embarrassed for myself.
We get stories in the news regularly about people that were cutting their grass, driving a John Deere ride-on lawnmower. If you're drunk, that's an impaired driving charge, and they'll take your driver's license if you got caught on a tractor cutting your grass drunk. But again, I mean, I get it. That's also dangerous. When you're drunk, maybe you shouldn't be operating heavy machinery.
Okay, wow. I shouldn't be walking in heels either then. Okay, but I do agree. I mean, yeah, just think before you get behind the wheel regardless. That's from Jennifer. Thank you so much. And to that point, Zachary, he writes us and says, hey, good morning. I had a radical thought about what you and Anna discussed on yesterday's pod on the drunk driver. What if the law stated if you wish to go to a bar, specifically a bar, you have to take an Uber or some other form of transportation that doesn't involve driving. Designated drivers can always be trusted not to drink. And in addition, once kids obtain their license every year until they're fully developed, I believe that's age 26, if I remember correctly from school, they need to take a class about the effects of alcohol and drugs and how they can affect their driving. Do you think that would be unreasonable?
Completely unreasonable.
Okay, there's more. There has to be a solution that would reduce these deaths. On a side note, I'm loving the podcast. I found a way to occasionally listen to your radio show from New York.
Great.
It's fun to hear how you speak on the radio versus on the podcast.
It's a different medium. That's why I do speak a little differently on it. Hey, I think that those are crazy ideas, to be perfectly honest with you.
You said radical, so.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I mean, I would love to live in a world where people don't do that, but the reality is people do. And the problem, again, is not a lack of education. The problem is they don't think they're going to get caught. Where are the ride programs?
Oof. I remember ride programs all the time when I was younger, though. 10,
15, 20 years ago, there was always ride programs. And the reason ride programs are effective is because they actually do catch drunk drivers, and they're also a good deterrent for those who might drive drunk. What does all the money that MAD raises do? Do they just use it to lobby government?
I have no idea. I can't.
Or do they actually fund ride programs? Maybe the province can take a look at this and say, hey, listen, this is a serious situation. This is dangerous. We're going to give police in every corner of the province more money to run more ride programs. I think that's the best thing that we could do. As far as you can't get into a bar if you drove there, I mean, we don't live in a nanny state. At some point, you have to let adults be adults and make adult decisions. If somebody makes a bad decision, that's why we have a criminal justice system, and they should go through it if they made a bad decision. I mean, if what you're saying were to come, they might as well just not allow bars to have parking lots.
I mean, my other thing is when it comes to the ride programs, it shouldn't just be on a long weekend because everybody knows, oh, the police are going to be out. It's a long weekend. Watch out for ride programs. It should be just unexpectedly show up like how it used to be 15, 20 years ago, in my opinion.
We've basically abandoned the ride program.
I don't see them.
You'll still hear cops say, oh, we still do ride. We do it all hours a day. When we were doing ride at like 6 a.m., I went through one on my way to work one day, and I was shocked.
Me too.
What are you doing ride at 6 o'clock in the morning for?
You'd be surprised.
It's amazing how many people drive the next day and don't realize they're still drunk from the night before.
It's true.
Listen, I think that ride programs are invaluable, and I think there should be more of them. I just think that the police don't prioritize it right now, and nor do I think they have the resources to do it. Maybe they don't have enough cops. Maybe they don't have enough money in the budget because it would be overtime. We should fund more ride programs. And MAD, you moms against drunk driving, I've got my differences with you because I think your money could be better spent if you would actually do something that actually prevents drunk driving instead of constantly lobbying to have the blood alcohol level lowered. I think 0.05 and 0.08 are appropriate. That's the global standard. I don't think we need to lower it. I think we just need more enforcement. And that works in just about every other aspect of life. There's no reason to think it wouldn't work for Impaired.
All right. We're going to leave it on that one. We have one from Anonymous. I would like to get your and Anna's thoughts on a subject that I see on a daily basis, and it is extremely frustrating. I work at Home Depot. I see people stealing all the time. And I'm not talking about a screwdriver. I'm talking about a crackhead that has filled her arms with as much DeWalt stuff as possible and carrying it out the front door with our LP on her tail. Not
LP would be loss prevention, I assume?
I would assume, yeah. But not legally allowed to arrest her. So we all have to stand there every day and watch this. They say there isn't anything that can be done because this is how our legal system is right now. Now, also to mention that the crackhead would have more rights than the LP if she were to be touched by him. How much sense does this all make? I would love your take on this. Thanks.
It doesn't make sense. Is that actually the law? Because as far as I'm concerned, if you own a business and someone comes in and commits a crime like stealing mass quantities of expensive product, what do you mean your loss prevention officer can't do anything about that? I get it at the LCBO. The LCBO is a provincial crown corporation. They've set out a policy internally that their security guards, which are a complete waste of money. Why are we spending money on security at the LCBO when they're not allowed to do a thing? Mm-hmm. We've got cameras. You've got the picture. I don't know if anybody's actually looking for these people that go into stores and steal. I'm not sure. If you get out the front door, did you get away with it? Or are you always going to be on a watch list of some sort? True. Can they identify you? I don't know. If it's a private business like Home Depot, Walmart, if you have a loss prevention officer, presumably they're trained to deal with people that are stealing. They should have every right to detain you until the police arrive. No, they're not going to arrest you, but they should have a right to hold you there until the cops arrive. And then the cops will make a determination about whether or not you should be charged. The fact that a loss prevention officer could be charged for doing their exact job, like literally that's their job description, that's crazy to me. If that is the way the legal system works, we got to change that quick. We got a big enough problem with crime in this society. We can't just make it known to people that if you walk into a store and grab a handful of stuff and walk out the door, there's zero consequences. We got to fix this.
I got to tell you, for example, when I lived out east, there was a drugstore, let's say, and twice that week it was robbed of perfume. And my friend's mom was in there and said, "Hey, buddy, you're stealing." And he opened his coat jacket and showed her a large knife. And then she went to security and the cash register said, "That guy's stealing. He has a knife." "Yeah, no, this is the second time this week. Nothing we can do about it. We just called the cops."
Well, what are the cops doing?
Nothing.
It's a serious question. What are the cops doing?
They're not doing anything.
Do they know what their job is? And I don't mean for regular cops that are out there just trying to do their job. I mean the people who assign. You guys aren't investigating these things? You don't take them seriously at all? Are you looking for these people? Is there a wall up at the police station with pictures of all the people that have stolen?
I don't know. I was scared for them. I was like, "Did you leave right away?" Well, yeah, because we didn't know how it was going to go, but it was very flippant. Yeah, second time this week they have been here and stole. That's exact person.
Listen, we have security guards that are trained and bonded. We have loss prevention officers that could be or should be the same. If you've gone through the appropriate training and you work in loss prevention, you work as security, you should absolutely have the right to do your job. And I'm not advocating for violence. I don't think they need to be armed in any way.
I get it.
But I don't even care if you have to chase them out to the parking lot and tackle them. Mm-hmm. Get your product back that you paid for. You don't have to just write that off as a loss. That's crazy. If you got to tackle them, if they get rough them up yourself. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but these people need to understand that you can't just walk into a Home Depot and grab a handful of DeWalt tools and be on your way.
No, but
it doesn't work like that.
You also hear that in the news as well. Somebody breaks into someone's home and then the homeowner ends up hurting the burglar or the criminal and then they get charged.
Well, I mean, there's a few examples of that.
I'm just saying, but yeah.
By and large, as long as you use reasonable force, and that's the key, reasonable, this would be something that they'd have to be trained on what reasonable means. Yes. Even some cops don't understand what reasonable force means.
Which we hear.
So put them through a proper training program and then allow them to make those arrests or detain people until the police arrive. I think every store that has to deal with theft should have a little room that you can just lock somebody in until the police arrive. And that's just all there is to it. You stole? Okay. The cops are going to be here. They can't be here for an hour because they got stuff to deal with. Then you sit there alone until the police arrive. There should be no pass for anybody to steal from other people or businesses. And if police are allowing this to happen or turning a blind eye, I think that's wrong.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we're going to leave it on that. We have a different one. So we talked about Canada Post not going on strike. So Rob writes, hey, Scott and Anna, sorry, but is the Canada Post employee honestly comparing CP workers who, let's be frank, don't need an education to deliver and sort mail to healthcare workers and education workers who need post-secondary education in regards to how much of a percentage of a raise they get? I want to feel for the workers that yes, as typical of a Crown Corp, there is always bloat at the top. But these CP workers are fooling themselves that a corporation that is essentially bankrupt somehow justifies giving the employees a raise. Time to outsource to DHL, UPS, FedEx, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that it's time to privatize major aspects of our mail delivery in this country. As far as the union's concerned, I think what he's trying to say is other unions got sweetheart deals and big increases, and that was like nurses and teachers and things like that. A lot of those unions are provincial, whereas Canada Post would fall under the jurisdiction of the federal government. I don't know if education really plays a role in it. I think it depends on the value of the service to Canadians. And Canada Post is valuable to a lot of Canadians. There's people, I've seen it in my social media nonstop for the last 3 days, people complaining that without Canada Post, their business will go under. Without Canada Post, they'll never get their pills and they won't be able to pay their bills and all that sort of stuff. I think there's a solution for every problem, but I get that these people feel they'll be greatly inconvenienced. We could certainly start by taking the populated areas out of the mix. Outsource it, privatize it. And if you still want to send your flyers out and Canada Post isn't an option, then send them out through whoever is delivering. Get it done privately. I made a lot of money as a kid delivering newspapers. Yeah. You know, that was how you used to do it. I think that there's other ways. There's a solution here. I don't think the 19% that Canada Post is asking for is appropriate or reasonable under the circumstances. But I also understand it's not the employee's fault that the company is basically insolvent. They just did their job. They did what we asked them to do. Management screwed this up. Whoever it was that said we're going to throw out every Canada Post vehicle and replace it with a green one, I think they should be investigated. Yeah. Was there a kickback there? Because I can't think of any other reason with common sense that anyone would do that. Bananas, if you ask me. Anna, bananas. Sorry.
Oh, it's first time I've ever heard of that.
I'm sure you never hear that. I hope that this comes to a negotiated settlement.
Yeah, you want everybody to be happy.
I do want everybody to be happy, but I think everyone needs to understand that there's going to have to be compromise here. If the employees actually think they're going to get 19%, I really don't think that that's a realistic aspiration. If Canada Post thinks they're going to get away with no pay increase, I don't think that that makes sense either. Is it going to be somewhere between the 13.5 that's on the table and the 19 the union wants? I don't know. To me, 13.5 seems like an appropriate raise. It's a lot of money, especially when you consider how many of these people are making six figures. That's a $13,000 raise.
Wow. Oof.
Who gets that outside of the private or the public sector?
Okay.
We also got to try and even things up a little bit. There's certain things that public sector unions get, and it drives the public that works in the private sector batshit crazy. There's the shit you wanted, Terry. It does. It drives them crazy.
Yeah.
Because those are things that are just so over the moon impossible in the private sector that are almost entitlements in the public sector. And that's wrong, too. We do need to find a little bit of parity. And the federal government is going to have to start laying people off. Maybe Canada Post is where they start. I don't know. I know it's a Crown corporation, but the government is way too big. We've hired way too many civil servants over the last 7 years. It's just too much, and we need to right size at some point.
Okay, well, now we're switching gears to sports. All right.
Let's have some sports.
Yeah, we're talking Leafs.
Okay, Brendan Shanahan is gone as president of the Leafs.
Yeah, and he's been there for how long? Like a decade? Time to go.
10 years. Made the playoffs 9 times in 10 years. That's an accomplishment because if you think back to the Leafs more than 10 years ago, they weren't even competitive.
Yeah, but it's nice to make it to the playoffs. Now let's get to the cup.
And that's the thing. Shanahan couldn't get him over the hump, so he's got to go. So. Fresh face, and hopefully that fresh face can build on what Shanahan created, not just scrap it and start over, because the last thing we need to do is start over. We're close where we are right now, Leafs fans. We just need a couple more pieces to fall into place.
Oh, okay. Well, here we have Steven who writes, "Hey, Scott, I don't agree with this narrative that too much pressure is put on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Have people not heard of the New York Yankees or literally any football soccer team in Europe? Marner, Matthews, and co. shouldn't command ridiculous contracts if it's too much pressure for them to perform when it actually matters. I'm sure we'll see Marner leave for a team that will pay him way more than what he's worth, where for the most part people don't care about hockey. I think I'm thinking San Jose and Anaheim probably pick him up. So there you go. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know where Marner's going to go, but I think that every Leaf that leaves is probably going to get an offer, at least, from Pittsburgh, because Kyle Dubas was the guy in Toronto for many, many, many years, and he's got a great relationship with these guys. He drafted most of them, so Pittsburgh has got to be on the radar at some point. I also think the New York Islanders are just the team of sloppy seconds from the Toronto Maple Leafs. They pick up all kinds of Leafs baggage, and they're probably going to get Brendan Shanahan as well. They've got Lou Lamoriello there now. I don't know where Marner's going to go. I do agree with you that there's no such thing as too much pressure on these athletes, especially when you compare it to other high-stakes sports. You know, the pressure on some of these soccer players.
Oh, gosh.
It's nuts.
It's wild.
You know, when you get to the Super Bowl, there's pressure on those athletes to perform.
Yep.
And the Leafs have just got to get used to that. There's a lot of people making a big deal of the fact that just 2 days or a day after they were eliminated from the playoffs, almost the entire team was spotted out at Devil's Pulpit playing golf in Caledon.
I was outraged, and I don't care that much, but I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, are these guys for real?
Well, how much time do you wait?
I need you to mourn as much as I'm mourning, okay? And you were out there. You were on the ice. Like, you know the devastation.
This is work for them, though. I mean, when you're done work, you're free to do whatever you want. They're done work.
No, man. If I've done something and I've disappointed, like, that stays with me. And I have to, like, work through it and... I don't know. Maybe do people work through it on the golf course? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, a lot gets done on the golf course. I will say, though, that I'm surprised to hear that they're playing at Devil's Pulpit in Caledon. I've played that course many times. It's private. You got to know somebody to get in or apparently be a Toronto Maple Leaf.
There you go.
For a long time, the Leafs were frequenting Wooden Sticks, another great golf course here in Ontario. I didn't know they'd moved over to the Pulpit there, though. That's interesting.
But that's it. They didn't want to be seen, but there's always someone watching.
Closest I've ever come to a hole-in-one was at the Pulpit. I was playing with my lawyer.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, he can afford a membership because I paid him a lot.
Well, there you go.
Anyway, it's a great golf course if you ever get a chance to play it. I don't blame the Leafs for going out there. I'd want to do it, too. It's one of the only places where you can look out across the fairway in Caledon and see right down to Lake Ontario.
Oh, that's really pretty.
Beautiful.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that, Stephen. Now we have Kyle. He writes, I wanted to weigh in on the Leafs a little and ask your thoughts on this. With the lineup that they have, when they want to play, they really can't. They do it well. They have a strong team at times. But watching them play game 5 and 7 against Florida, it looked like they were just out there for a Sunday skate or pond hockey. My question to you is, do you think there is something else going on with the whole NHL thing? Something like you've talked about before where they want the U.S., they want us times in the finals because they worry about ratings, or Gary Bettman having something to do with it, saying you guys need to lose this and get out, making room for someone else again. With the fan base that they always have people coming back. But it just seems fishy that ever since the late 90s, there hasn't been a Canadian team win the cup. Please, I'm open to discussion, or even add this to your DMs on the Friday. Thanks for all that you do. Keep up the great work.
Okay.
There's a lot there from
There's
Kyle.
a lot. Some of you guys got to work on your grammar. It's hard to read these messages sometimes.
I know, and I'm sorry. I'm trying my best here.
Okay, when it comes to the Leafs, is there a conspiracy? A lot of people believe there's a conspiracy in the NFL in particular. Some people believe there's a conspiracy in hockey in that you don't want your big superstar teams to win because they're going to have a fan base no matter what, a big one. You want some of those lower teams to get in and win the championship, either because they play in an area where it would be great for ratings, or it's a team that needs a little bit of support, and that the leagues try and stick handle this so that certain teams win and certain teams do not. I don't know if that's true or not, but two things about that. It would be massive to be able to cover that up. If there really is a plan at work within the NHL with Gary Bettman to make sure the Leafs don't win, people on the Leafs would need to know about that. Referees would need to know about that, and nobody has spoke. There hasn't been a whistleblower to come forward and say, listen, this isn't even legit. Nobody has done that, which makes me think it hasn't happened. I also think, though, that the NHL, the NFL, the NBA, they're crazy if they don't fix it. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry, each one of these sports. We're talking about franchises that are worth like $100 billion or something like that, $100 million. The thought that they would just leave it up to chance who wins is crazy to me. I have to think that there's a plan at play here. You can't just entrust a multi-billion-dollar industry to fate and let's just hope something fun happens. I think there has to be some interference on some level, but I don't know how we would ever prove that. If there's a conspiracy in the NHL to make sure the Leafs never win or to make sure the Leafs don't win until a specific time, I'm interested to hear about it. It's just I would have thought that if that was the case, we would have heard about it by now. Somebody in the organization would need to be in on it. How do you tell Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, hey, lay off on the scoring tonight because you guys can't win this year. It's not your year.
Oh, my gosh, I know. Or do they just
Somebody would say something.
Or do they get more penalties for unnecessary things and then you get power plays? I don't,
The refereeing could play a role in it, but it can't determine the outcome. Was it 5-0 Florida beat Carolina last night?
So
how do you fake that?
It's true. But at least when they played us, we got a goal in. It wasn't just a shutout for us, even though it was like 6-1, if we can find the bright side.
Right. Is there a conspiracy? I don't know. I don't think so, but I think they're crazy if they're not fixing it in some way. How about that?
All right. Okay, I love the passion. We got a message from Kenson. He writes, hey, Scott, love today's pod as usual. I aspire to be knowledgeable as you are on hockey someday. Ha ha ha. I'm trying to get into hockey, and I must say, definitely jumped on the Leafs bandwagon, but I don't share as much disappointment as the diehard fans. As for your buddy Silent Date.
Okay, Silent Date.
Yeah, when you mentioned the kid and busted out laughing, I did the same. Your laugh gets me every time. I think your buddy should reach out for another date, and kudos to him for going out on the date.
It's amazing how many people thought he should have walked the other way when he saw her show up with a kid. I think that would be one of the most rude things you could do.
Yeah, I think I would have stuck around. I just wouldn't, gone for gelato.
He liked the kid. I think he liked the kid.
Like
he didn't have a problem with the kid.
Maybe, okay, I don't know. I would have friend zoned right away.
I do know a little bit more, by the way. I think I said at the beginning, I know a little bit more about what they're doing this weekend. And I'm not going to tell anybody until Monday when the weekend has happened.
Oh, gosh.
I will tell you, though, that I know now this is not her cottage. She's renting this cottage for the weekend that she invited him to come up to.
Wow.
And I know that the kid is going to be there, but only for a little bit. Only a little while.
There's so many questions there. Okay.
I know. Think about it.
Okay, I have...
Monday, I promise I will tell you the whole story because he has promised to tell me. Is it rude, by the way, if he takes his phone to the bathroom and texts me details in real time about what's going on?
Absolutely not. What do you think us women do?
Oh, do you girls do that?
I text everything when you're not even looking. I've taken a photo because I was like, okay, I can't say it. Anyways, I took a photo and sent it to my friend about a situation, about a guy. And then she was like, you're crazy. Like, let it go, Anna.
Situation?
Okay, so I'm going to make this about me for 1 second. Anyways, I didn't date him. I went out on a date with this guy. I thought he was gay at first because he wore a turtleneck. I know I shouldn't assume.
Is that gay? I have turtlenecks. I don't wear them very often, but I didn't know that was gay.
I know. Okay, I'm trying not to make myself look bad here. There's no hope for me. Anyways,
okay, but if you're out with a guy and you think he's not heterosexual, it's okay to say.
Okay, so when I worked at CTV, I did shoots, which people would have to come in and there were male models. And I met him. He seemed very nice. I just assumed that he was gay. And anyways, when he asked me out on a date, I actually asked him that. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were into men. And he's like, no, I'm not into men. And he's like, why? I was like, oh, I don't know. I just saw you wear the turtleneck and you presented yourself in a way. He's like, no, but I'd still like to take you out. Well, I put my foot in my mouth. So I went out with him. Nice guy. And then I couldn't get past the turtleneck. So then I sent the picture to my friend and I was like, dude, am I crazy? And she's like, no. So anyways, great guy. Never went past that first date because I have my own issues. But anyways, what I'm saying is
with turtlenecks, clearly you have fashion industry. There are fashion issues. Oh, wow.
Well, I was used to plaid and different style out in Halifax. Very metrosexual here in Ontario.
Why does metrosexual come with the connotation of gay? Just because a guy takes care of himself.
I appreciate it.
Because he does his hair properly and he manscapes and he gets manicures and he gets pedicures and all the other things that it's perfectly acceptable for a woman to do. Nobody thinks twice about it. But when a guy does it, he gets labeled metrosexual and most people think he's gay.
I know, but when I lived out there, if I remember being out and a guy wore a scarf and they're like, oh, he's not from here. He's not from here. He's from Ontario. He's wearing a scarf. Guys don't wear scarves out here. I'm not kidding. So I had been out there for 15 years and I felt like I was out of sorts. I was so used to the plaid button up, baggy pants, and you wear your construction boots out.
Is that an East Coast thing? They go out in their construction boots?
Yeah,
wow.
You just do your own thing. Yeah. So you knew who was an out-of-towner, and he was. He was from out of town. So we connected over being from Ontario.
Great.
Anyways, what I'm saying is we do take pictures. We use it. When we say we need to use the bathroom, know that when we take our purse, we're actually messaging a friend.
Interesting. Okay, that's good to know. I had no idea what you girls did in there or why it takes 3 people to do it. So that's good. Good information.
So he will. I hope he does text you while he's there.
I want to do a point of clarification based on yesterday's pod. If you missed yesterday, I really think you should go back and hear it. There's a little bit of political talk at the beginning, but about 20 minutes in, we get into the story about my buddy who's doing the silent date. And I did give a watermelon story.
It was, I can never look at a watermelon the same way ever again.
Everybody knows the movie American Pie.
Absolutely.
My only point was you can also do that with a watermelon if you nuke it. It doesn't mean I've done it. It just means I'm aware that it can be done.
I had no idea that this could be done until you said it. And I'm not saying that that you've done it, but a
lot of people did. You should see my DMs. I have never done that to a watermelon.
Can I ask you, did anybody admit to doing it to a watermelon in your DMs that we're not sharing today?
No, nobody said they did it, but I am aware that it gets done. You just got to warm it up a little bit, and
I can never. No. I can't go to a man's house and see a watermelon. No.
When you get home, do you have a watermelon at home?
No.
You should get a watermelon this weekend. Just stick your finger in it.
Ew, it just sounds so weird. I'm going to stick my finger in the watermelon.
Watermelon, female, have very similar traits internally. I'm just saying.
Oh my God. I am curious now.
Oh, look at the look on your face.
I'm
That's awful.
Well, I mean, I got all the parts, so I know what we feel like, but I'm interested now to see, is it that close to a watermelon?
I wonder how many people are going to finger a watermelon this weekend.
I mean, for research purposes. All right. Thank you so much, Kenson. We so appreciate you listening. Now we have a message from CM. I listened to you and Anna today on the pod, and I laughed out loud a few times. I think your friend should go to the cottage with the silent date lady. Sounds like a good time. Okay. So there you have it.
I am so open-minded about this. I think it's fine. He is not in any danger. She seems like an okay girl. She's got a good job. She's well off. It started off a little weird with the silent date, and she brought her kid and inviting him to a cottage the next weekend. I get that seems weird to some, but I think this is an adventure, and I think he's going to have a great time.
It just seemed really fast for some, but not everybody agrees with me. Raf, actually, he has a long message here, so I had to cut some of it out, so you know. But he writes, "Hey, Scott, great show, as always, regarding your buddy and this girl that everyone thinks is moving too fast. I think she's smart. While she was clearly shy to even go out on a date, she figured out a way to get a toe in the water, and I don't know why. Kudos to her for going back out there on her own terms." So when it comes to the kid and the cottage, at their age, I think it's great for everyone to put everything out on the table to see if the other person is good with it. It's 2025 and babysitters cancel. People aren't reliable, and she showed that she is by telling him there was a roadblock, and she came anyways. Okay.
Good take.
Okay. When it comes to the cottage, I have a feeling that he will have his own bedroom at least on day one.
Okay.
She wants to see how they are by spending some uninterrupted time together with each other, chatting, doing things like going for walks, etc. Listen, they both aren't 20, and moving things along versus taking months to get through those conversations, that can happen within the first few weeks, especially at this age. People date differently in their 20s, differently than their 40s and 50s. They date differently if they have kids and when they have had any. So anyways, he's saying go for it. It's okay. And it's to be expected. Things move differently when you're older. And I agree. How I date now is different than how I dated when I was 20.
Raph, that's a great point. We're going to leave it at that, but I think that that's a good point. Yeah, dating in your 20s is very different from your 40s, and people have kids.
Yeah.
Especially people in their 40s are much more likely than people in their 20s. So this is just something that you have to deal with. It's not a weird thing. It's just not what you're traditionally expecting.
Yeah.
I think this is good. I'm very optimistic for him. I think he's going to have a great weekend.
Okay, well, this is a different situation. Same about your friend. It's from Katie. She writes, "Hey, Scott, I'm a day late listening to the podcast, but I'm writing you about your friend. I have a similar story. Met a guy for a beer and pizza. The following weekend was my long weekend, and he invited me to his cottage with some of his buddies and girlfriends. We've been together and married for 15 years.
It
so
works.
I say go for it."
That's great.
Wow.
Does that change your perspective at all, Dana?
Yeah, I'm calling somebody from my phone right now, going to their cottage.
Maybe you should be open-minded to this. Maybe that's how people in their 40s date. They just cottage it all the time.
Cottage it. You know what? Yeah, maybe I should find a man who owns a cottage, who has his own house and a vehicle. They're doing great. That's what I need.
And is it a deal breaker if he's got a kid?
I can't date somebody with kids again. I've done it before, and I love the kids so much. The ex was wonderful too. Obviously, he and I didn't work out. And my problem is I get attached. I don't care about him. I miss the kids. That's my hard part. And I have no rights. I can't have a relationship with them because I'm not with their dad. So that's what I mean when I say I don't want to date with somebody with kids again.
Interesting. Okay, great. Were there more DMs?
Just
I wanted you to
one
speed
more.
up I was giving Anna the speed it up sign, but only because Raph's message was way too long.
Oh, and I cut half of it out.
If you want to send in a listener DM, by all means, I would love to hear from you. Try and keep it concise, please.
Okay, so this is the last one, okay? And this is a good one. Karen, she writes, "I am hooked for all of it. Wishing them the best. Actually looking forward to Monday just to get the scoop. I understand some of the concerns expressed, but sometimes you just know and it works. Simple as that."
Okay. I like it. Thank you very much for your listener DMs, everybody. We appreciate it. Fridays, I try and allocate a lot of time, and today it was the entire episode to you and your perspective. If you take the time to listen to this podcast regularly, hopefully daily, but even regularly, we appreciate that so much, and your opinion matters to us. So by all means, you can slide into our DMs for every Friday episode at Anna_Almeida or at Scott Fox on air. Friends, have yourselves a great weekend. Hopefully you're somewhere warm. We're in Ontario, so no. But there's reason to think that next weekend will be a lot better. Friends, we will catch you on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Oh,